Time Magazine's left-wing list of the 100 best novels. 2 that I said I never read. Gone with the Wind, couldn't read it. Grapes of Wrath. I mean, it's a book you thought you should like. I couldn't read it. The Great Gatsby, I read it. I was never moved by it. I mean, Hemingway likes Fitzgerald, so I read it. I didn't really find it that interesting. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers, good title. Herzog by Saul Bellow, Byzantine, unreadable. I'm reading I, Claudius by Robert Graves, couldn't stand it, and I met Robert Graves afterwards. He was worse than his novels. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, big deal. Old man loves young girl. Lord of the Flies by William Golding, fabulous book. Actually, fabulous book. Lucky Jim by Kingsley Amos, never read it. The Man Who Loved Children, I wonder what that's about, by Christina Steed. Of course, it has a different meaning today. The Man Who Loved Children from 1940 is not the book The Man Who Loved Children today. The Man Who Loved Children is probably running the education department today. Native Son by Richard Wright, 1984 by George Orwell, written in 1948. One of the most important books I've ever read, because we're living in it. On the Road by Jack Kerouac, one of the most important books I ever read. But I can name 5 other books by Kerouac that changed my life. On the Road, Dharma Bums. You want me to name the others? The Subterraneans. Every one of them was transformational in my life. Got me out of the delicatessen crowd in Queens. Was it not for Jack Kerouac, I would have been eating corned beef on Club and died at 46 of a triple bypass coronary occlusion of the soul. Was it not for Jack Kerouac, I would have eaten schmaltz all my life and been fat at 35 and died a sick, broken man with a broken briefcase somewhere in a phone booth on 3rd Avenue. Was it not for Jack Kerouac and the incredible literature that turned me around and transformed me into the man I am today, I would have eaten corned beef and cabbage at Katz's. No. Corned beef and cabbage on bars on 8th Avenue after being rejected in business meetings. I would have gone to Katz's on Ludlow Street and had a double corned beef, make it thick on the schmaltz. Take me to Bellevue in a stretcher, please. Was it not for Jack Kerouac, I wouldn't be the man I am today. So he said, oy vey. Hey, look, I got to have fun. You know, boys just want to have fun, is the way it's said. So let me finish the list, and we'll go. A Passage to India, E.M. Forster. I could read 3 pages of it, how to put it down. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. Truly one of the most overrated books in history. In fact, the only reason Kurt Vonnegut was enjoyed is because he was a left-wing America hater. The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. Byzantine, impossible to read unless you were a tenured English professor. The Sun Also Rises by Hemingway. Very important book. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Couldn't touch it. The cover itself turned me off. Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller. Oh, let's add to that one. How about Black Spring by Henry Miller? Saved my life on many a dull night. When things weren't working in my life, I always turned to Miller. Whenever I reached a cul-de-sac in my own existence, I always found Miller. When the night was so dark, there were no stars in my future to follow. Out of the abyss, there was only Henry Miller. Under the Volcano by Malcolm Lowry, one of the most important books I've ever read. You want to get a real picture of Mexico and the real subterranean culture of Mexico and what you really can expect underneath the floating gardens of Xochimilco? Read Under the Volcano, but make sure you've had 3 drinks before you do. So that's my analysis of Time's list of the 100 best novels. Which would you add to this list? Which are the books that changed your life? What are the movies that changed your life? How about when you were a kid and you came out of a war movie and you wanted to be a hero? You wanted to go into the military because of it. Did any movie ever do that for you? How about when you were a kid and you saw a movie about a pilot flying over through a storm and he gets the people there safely? Did that make you want to be a pilot? How about a movie about a heroic submarine commander or a sea captain? Did that make you want to go in the Navy? How about a movie that inspired you to be something macho and something male and something purely American, as opposed to the garbage that's put out today that turns your son into a jelly roll that melts in the sun? How about it? Houston, Texas. Mike, which book was transformational in your life?
Mike, well, I'm 30 years old, but I think that The Catcher was so genius, and it made me believe that, you know, I'm not the only person who has thoughts like Holden had. And, you know,
what do you mean thoughts? You mean what kind of thoughts? Like Holden Caulfield, but what kind of thoughts? You mean the existential, who am I, what am I, why am I living?
Absolutely. And I read the book when I was, 22 years old, and I read it in 3 days, and I was like, this is the greatest book I've ever read in my life, and I never had to read it in high school, and I graduate college, and I read the book, I'm like, man, it's the best freaking book I've ever read. And
the book is still taught in school, and it's a book about the angst of a late adolescent, the sufferings of young Werther by Goethe really was the primary inspiration in some way for the Holden Caulfield character, A Catcher in the Rye. I mean, certainly there was original in one sense, but not original in the sense of the angst of the 18-year-old boy, right?
Absolutely. And, people, when you're that age, and even when you're, my generation, you're in your early 20s, people still consider you that age. and when you read the book, people never have had those kind of feelings before, and that they can.
So in other words, wait a minute. So Mallarmé, the French poet, wrote that the purpose of the artist is to make people, how did he put it? I used to know it in French. To make more clear the words of the tribe. I forget the French translation, but he wrote that the work of the artist is to make much more clear the words of the person. In other words, we can't articulate. The average person is not able to articulate what they feel or even what they see. But the artist's job is to help the person articulate what they see or feel. Isn't that what you're saying? Is that piece of literature is what did it for you, The Catcher in the Rye?
Absolutely. Because J.D. Salinger spoke to your average adolescent who had these thoughts. Why am I here? And the ending of the book was like, you finally get it at the very end. So I don't. All right.
So now I'm gonna make a leap in faith, Mike, and I'm gonna make it somewhat narcissistic and egotistical. Isn't the reason that you listen to this show is because I help you articulate what you see going on, but don't quite know how to express?
Yeah, of course. I mean, without a doubt. I'm a 30-year-old young, very conservative guy. Like you, I don't see myself as Republican, but I'm a very
exactly.
guy.
But you see yourself as an American who loves the country and sees it going down the tubes, and sees a mess being made by the two interlopers in the White House, and you don't know what to say about it without fear that you're going to be attacked as a racist. But I give you the ability to do it, don't I?
Absolutely.
Yay! Let's hear it for Michael Savage Mallarmé. 1-800-449-8255. I'll be right back. Savage.